The Senate is back in order. We are on Order of Business 13.
Assembly Bill 202, introduced by Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, revises provisions governing electronic communication devices in certain healthcare facilities. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 718, proposed by Senator Doniate.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections to order. Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 718 to Assembly Bill 202 makes revisions and changes to Sections 9 and 11. This was a technical glitch caught by the bill sponsor, and so that's the point of the amendment.
Thank you. Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 202 is ready for final action.
Assembly Bill 202, introduced by Assemblywoman Summers Armstrong, revises provisions governing electronic communication devices in certain healthcare facilities. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 15, end of subsection 2, end of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 202 authorizes a patient in a skilled nursing facility or the patient's representative to request installation and use of an electronic communication device in the patient's living quarters if certain conditions are met. Among other requirements, the patient or patient's representative must agree to waive the right of privacy to the patient and release the facility and its employees from any liability regarding this right in connection with the use of an electronic communication device. The bill prohibits anyone except the patient or representative from intentionally interfering with such device, and it authorizes certain persons to view and listen to images and sounds. Lastly, this bill requires a facility for a skilled nursing facility to post a notice on a conspicuous place at the entrance of the living quarters of a patient that contains an electronic communication device, stating that such device is in use.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21. The noes are 0. AB 202 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 207, introduced by Assemblywoman Gonzalez and Wynn, revises provisions governing work-based learning programs. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023, end of bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 207 authorizes the Board of Trustees of a school district or the governing body of its charter school to purchase and maintain insurance against any liability arising from the student's participation in an approved work-based learning program.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 17. The noes are 4. AB 207 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 241, introduced by Assemblywoman Mosca, etc., and Senator Doniate, etc., revises provisions governing the education of pupils enrolled in a public high school. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4 into subsection 2, end of bill.
Senator Hammond.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 241 requires a public high school pupil to enroll in the courses and credits required by the State Board of Education to receive a college and career-ready high school diploma or a diploma equivalent to or more rigorous than a college and career-ready high school diploma. The bill also outlines circumstances in which students are not required to enroll in such courses and credits and specifies certain implementation dates for the bill, which depend upon school district populations.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21. The noes are 0. AB 241 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 256, introduced by Assemblywoman Mosca, revises provisions relating to work-based learning programs. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 6, end of subsection 3, end of bill.
Senator Neal.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 256 revises the definition of volunteer to exclude certain employees whose place of work participates in work-based learning program other than an employee who directly oversees or has unsupervised contact with a pupil in the program. Requires students who participate in work-based learning to complete training related to harassment, healthy relationships, and identifying signs of inappropriate behavior in the workplace. It requires Nevada's Department of Education to prescribe a method for a school district board of trustees to determine if an entity's work-based learning program volunteer must follow certain fingerprinting provisions, and authorizes the board of trustees of the school district to exempt certain work-based learning volunteers from the requirement to submit fingerprints for background check. And it's effective on July 1st, 2023.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 256 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 267, introduced by Assemblywoman Torres, etc., and Senator Duñate, etc., revises provisions governing cultural competency training. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 10 into subsection 2 and a bill.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 267 requires the State Board of Health to adopt regulations to require a medical facility for the dependent and certain other facilities to conduct training relating to specifically to the cultural competency of certain individuals providing care to patients and residents of a facility. Further, the measure requires certain healthcare professionals to complete a certain number of hours of instructions relating to cultural competency and diversity, equity, and inclusion as a prerequisite for the renewal of a license.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21. The noes are 0. AB 267 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 316, introduced by Assemblyman C.H. Miller, revises provisions governing motor vehicles. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 3 into subsection 3 and a bill.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 316 revises the penalty for the unlawful possession of a certain number of unregistered vehicles unfit for use to be punishable by a civil penalty of not more than $100 for each day of the violation. The bill also authorizes a local authority to adopt an ordinance prohibiting the same conduct and imposing a different non-criminal penalty. Lastly, the bill provides that such a local ordinance applies instead of the state law prohibiting the same conduct under the same circumstances. The bill is effective October 1st, 2023.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 316 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 343, introduced by Assemblyman C.H. Miller, revises provisions relating to occupational therapy. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows: Section 1 into Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 20 into subsection 2 end of bill. This bill requires a two-thirds majority vote.
Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 343 revises requirements to obtain or renew a license or a temporary license as an occupational therapist or occupational therapy assistant, and authorizes the Board of Occupational Therapy to issue a license by reciprocity as an occupational therapist or occupational therapy assistant. The bill also revises the applicability of an exemption for students to engage in occupational therapy and authorizes the Board to issue a citation and impose an administrative fine for a violation of certain regulations of the Board. Further, the measure provides that each member of the Board is entitled to a salary while engaged in the business of the Board. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for purposes of adopting regulations and performing any other preparatory task, and on January 1, 2024 for all other purposes.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 343 has received a two-thirds vote, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 394, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Legislative Operations and Elections, revises provisions governing elections. People of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 4 and to subsection 2 and to bill.
Senator Orenshaw.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 394 requires the Secretary of State to adopt by regulation a procedure to be used if the abstract or certification of results for any election is not timely prepared or transmitted as required by statute. Additionally, the measure provides that ballots may only be counted once, except as otherwise required during an audit or a recount. The bill, if passed, will be effective upon passage and approval for the purpose of adopting regulations and performing any preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1st, 2024, for all other purposes.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 13, the noes are 8. AB 394 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 410, introduced by Assemblywoman Howdy-Gee, etc., revises provisions relating to industrial insurance. The people of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 and to Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 5 and to subsection 2 and to bill.
Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 410 expands the stress-related injuries that may be compensable under industrial insurance in certain circumstances, to include mental injury afflicting a first responder that is caused by extreme stress, for which the primary cause was witnessing a series of specified events that arose out of and during the course of employment. The bill is effective upon passage and approval for the purposes of adopting regulations and performing preparatory administrative tasks, and on January 1, 2024, for all other purposes. Mr. President, existing law contains similar provisions for first responders who witnessed an event as opposed to a series of events described in the bill. And this bill is designed to recognize that it's not just one event, but there can be a series of events. And I want to thank one of the persons who brought this to Assemblywoman Howdy-Gee is Mr. Thomas Lope. So thank you, Thomas.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 410 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 414, introduced by Assemblywoman Backus, revises provisions governing powers of attorney. The people of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 79, this act becomes effective on January 1, 2024, and to bill.
Senator Scheibel. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 414 establishes a form to create an advanced healthcare directive and repeals the current form for powers of attorney for healthcare. The bill also revises provisions concerning witnesses to a principal signature of a power of attorney for healthcare and removes the requirement that a certification of competency must be attached to a power of attorney. In certain circumstances, the bill is effective on January 1, 2024.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 14 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 415, introduced by Assemblywoman Taylor, revises provisions relating to dispensing opticians. The people of the State of Nevada represented in the Senate Assembly do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 34 and subsection 2 and to bill.
Senator Lang.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 415 revises provisions related to the Board of Dispensing Opticians. The measure makes various changes to provisions governing the operation of the board and its members, staff, and employees to align with those of other boards. Additionally, the bill revises, repeals, and reorganizes various provisions governing persons licensed by the board, the practice of ophthalmic dispensing, and the actions by the board may take against a person for violating certain provisions. This bill is effective upon passage and approval for purposes of adopting regulations and performing any preparatory administrative task on October 1, 2023 for all other purposes.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 415 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 424, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs, revises provisions relating to the issuance of bonds for environmental improvement projects in the Lake Tahoe Basin. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 under Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 7, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023, and a bill.
Senator Gokachia.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 424 requires the State Board of Finance to issue not more than $13 million in general obligation bonds to fund certain environmental improvement projects. Included in it, the second phase of the environmental improvement program for the Lake Tahoe Basin. The bill also allows the use of interest accrued on the proceeds of previously issued bonds to carry out such projects. Effective date July 1st, 2023.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 18, the nays are 3. AB 424 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly. The following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Assembly Bills 23, 35, 60, 127, 132, 163, 169, 202, 207, 241, 256, 267, 410, 415. Once these bills have been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further action. Are there any objections or remarks? Seeing none, we will continue.
Assembly Bill 455, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Revenue, authorizes the imposition of a civil penalty by the Department of Taxation for certain violations relating to contraband tobacco products. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023, and a bill.
AB 455.
Yep, got it.
Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 455, in its first reprint, authorizes the Department of Taxation to impose a civil penalty for certain violations related to contraband tobacco products. The penalty that the department may impose for these violations is $10,000 or the total cost incurred by the department for the transportation, storage, and disposal of the contraband tobacco products, whichever is greater. Thank you.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, the secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 21, the noes are 0. AB 455 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 456, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Growth and Infrastructure, revises provisions relating to railroads. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 456 prohibits the operation of work or freight trains that exceed 7,500 feet in length on certain railroad tracks in the state and provides that a person who violates this prohibition is liable to the Public Utilities Commission of Nevada for a civil penalty. The bill also establishes certain requirements for the installation and operation of wayside detector systems, which is an electronic device or a series of connected devices that scan passing trains, rolling stock, on-track equipment, and their component equipment. The bill is effective on July 1, 2023.
Before we go to remarks on the floor, are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 9, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023, and a bill.
Senator Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to AB 456. I was in the hearing on it. The reality is, it's like several bills we're talking about. This is way over our understanding. To have a hearing of a couple of hours and then make a decision impacting the entire railroad industry through Nevada, I mean, this involves literally tens of millions of dollars worth of cargo every day. In the hearing itself, we found out that since the 1970s, derailments have actually shrunk by 75%. Overall accidents are down by more than 40%. And in fact, the railroads are probably safer now than they've ever been in the history of the United States. The railroads themselves are already doing the wayside detector systems extensively all across the country. There are sections of Nevada where, frankly, they don't need that, and they would make it mandatory with this bill. They are already regulated by the Federal Railroad Administration on safety issues, and for us to come in as a legislative body and make a decision impacting interstate commerce has some questionable constitutional issues as well. So while I'm all about safety, I think we got to be very careful on trying to pass laws with such dramatic, draconian impacts on one of the major industries of our state, especially after having such a very narrow window of opportunity to really see what kind of problems we have. So I would urge my colleagues to vote no on AB 456. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Stone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I echo my comments from the senator from District 14. Plain and simple, this is a violation of the U.S. Commerce Clause, and it's in conflict with the 1945 U.S. Supreme Court decision. For those reasons, we should vote no.
Any further remarks? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 13, the noes are 8. AB 456 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Assembly Bill 464, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes an appropriation to the legislative fund for costs relating to anticipated building renovations and construction. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 2, this act becomes effective upon passage and approval. End of bill.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Mr. President. Assembly Bill 464, as amended, makes a one-time state general fund appropriation of $1,550,000 to the legislative fund for project development and initial operating expenses related to anticipated building renovations and construction. This act becomes effective upon passage and approval. Thank you.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Senator Severs-Gansert.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in opposition to Assembly Bill 464. We agree there's some money that should be spent on this building for planning because we need some renovations, and this will be a good use of that. But what's happened is the planning for the legislature and buildings has evolved into a large complex down south, and I think there's still work to be done on what that looks like. It went from potentially a building to 3 buildings and 2 parking garages, and from trying to house 30 staff to have 30 staff that are fiscal and legal and audit, those types of staff, and then another 117 to run those. And with that comes a significant increase in the number of positions. I think it goes from 300 to 467 for the LCB to be able to manage all of that when we were just trying to hire 30 employees. And the pay goes up, I think, like 70% overall when you look at that. So we're concerned about the expenditures to plan a massive complex. We think we can probably we know we can do a better job of that and really keep the costs down for taxpayers. Thank you.
Are there any other remarks on the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 13, the noes are 8. AB 464 has received a constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
Senate Bill 367, introduced by Senator Canizaro, et cetera, revises provisions relating to public safety. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, to enact as follows. Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Section 9, this act becomes effective on July 1, 2023.
Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Bill 367. What Senate Bill 367 does is really 2 separate things. First, It clarifies a law that was found to be vague and ambiguous by the Nevada Supreme Court that would allow for the prosecuting of a violation for provisions involving prohibited persons, so individuals who've already been adjudicated and found to have been prohibited from carrying firearms, to be able to charge for any illegal firearm in each and every firearm that they are illegally possessing. Secondly, the bill sets forth conditions under which the records of a child who is at least 16 years of age and who has been ordered admission to a mental health facility must be provided by the court to the Central Repository for Nevada Records of Criminal History for use in performing background checks related to purchase or possession of a firearm. The Central Repository must ensure that such information is included in the National Instant Criminal Background Check System and may take steps to include the information in appropriate databases of the National Crime Information Center. These provisions do not apply if a child has sought mental treatment voluntarily. A person who is the subject of a report made under the provisions of the bill may petition the court to have the report removed and obtain, upon certain findings being made by that court. And so this would allow for us to be in compliance with federal law when it comes to background checks. And again, this would only apply to involuntary commitments after due process through the court system. And I would urge everyone's support. Thank you, Mr. President.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Senator Severs-Ganser.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise in support of Senate Bill 367. This bill has been amended one or two times, and I really think it is important that we be able to understand when minors have mental health issues, and this is about involuntary commitment, so they have to be involuntarily committed for this to appear on a record to the National Criminal Background Check System. And we always hear, consistently that folks who are involved in shootings have a history of mental illness, and right now we do not have access to those records. We do not have access, and there's going to be strong due process around this, and if you have someone who is a minor over 16 years of age and has mental health issues that required a involuntary commitment, that there would now be a record that could be found to prohibit them from getting a weapon, which would be the same way that someone with a mental health adjudication would be treated if they were an adult. So this does not expand a reason for not allowing someone to buy a firearm if they were an adult. It's the same type of situation when there's a mental health adjudication, or in this case, it's an involuntary commitment. Thank you. I encourage your support.
Are there further remarks on the floor? Seeing none, the Secretary will open the roll. Anyone wish to change their vote? Seeing none, the Secretary will close the roll. The yeses are 19, the noes are 2. SB 367 has received the constitutional majority, is declared passed and ordered to the Assembly.
That concludes Order of Business 13 on the first agenda.
Order of Business 16, remarks from the... All right, before we go to Order of Business 16, the following bills are ready to be immediately transmitted to the Assembly. Senate Bill 367 and SCR 5. Once these bills have been transmitted to the Assembly, the Senate no longer has the ability to take any further actions. Are there any comments or remarks? Okay. All right, we are now on Order of Business 16, remarks from the floor, introduction of guests. Senator Hansen.
Thanks, Mr. President. Today is Assemblywoman Hansen's birthday. So Alexis and I have been running around together for 45 years now. And although we're getting older, she's still the most beautiful woman I've ever met in my life, both physically and spiritually. She's just a wonderful human being. So just wanted to reach out and say, hey, I love you. And it's been a great 45 years, and hopefully we'll have several more years to go. Been a real privilege to serve with her at the same time in the Nevada Legislature. So anyway, want to wish my wife a happy birthday, and thank you so much for putting up with me for 45 years now. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Any further remarks from the floor? All right, we will go to our second agenda, Order of Business 4, reports of committees.
Mr. President, your Committee on Commerce and Labor, to which were referred Assembly Bills numbers 39 and 198, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Pat Spearman, Chair. Mr. President, your Committee on Education, to which was referred Assembly Bill number 65, has had the same under consideration and begs leave to report the same back with the recommendation amend and do pass as amended. Signed, Senator Roberta Lang, Chair. End of reports.
Order of Business 6, messages from the Assembly.
Assembly Chamber, Carson City, May 24th, 2023. To the Honorable the Senate, I have the honor to inform your honorable body that the Assembly on this day passed Assembly Bills numbers 520, 521, and 522. Signed, Carol Ayala Sala, Assistant Chief Clerk of the Assembly. End of messages.
Order of Business 8, waivers and exemptions.
We have no waivers or exemptions at this time.
Order of Business 9, motion resolutions and notices.
We have no business under Order of Business 9 at this time.
Order of Business 10, introduction, first reading, and references.
Assembly Bill 520, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, makes various changes regarding state financial administration and makes appropriations for the support of the civil government of the state. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to refer Assembly Bill 520 to Finance.
You've heard the referral. If there were no objections, so ordered. Senator Dondero Loop. Oh, I'm sorry.
Assembly Bill 521, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, authorizes and provides funding for certain projects of capital improvement. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to refer Assembly Bill 521 to Finance.
You've heard the referral. If there are no objections, so ordered.
Assembly Bill 522, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Ways and Means, revises provisions relating to the compensation of state employees. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I move to refer Assembly Bill 522 to the Committee on Finance.
You've heard the referral. If there are no objections, so ordered.
That concludes Order of Business 10.
Order of Business 12, second reading.
Assembly Bill 121, introduced by Assemblywoman Considine, etc., revises provisions relating to incarcerated persons. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 664, proposed by the Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 664 to Assembly Bill 121.
There are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
I move for the adoption of Amendment 664.
You've heard the motion. Senator Scheibel.
Amendment 664 adds provisions authorizing the Director of the Nevada Department of Corrections, with the approval of the Board of Prisons, to adopt regulations exempting the Department of Corrections from the requirements to provide original physical mail if and only if a study has been conducted and those reports have been provided to the Interim Judiciary Committee and the Legislative Council Bureau, indicating that allowing physical mail to be provided to offenders presents a danger to staff or the offenders. It also includes a provision requiring those regulations to be adopted in accordance with the Administrative Procedure Act, also known as 233B. And finally, the amendment adds language in Section 3 to clarify that a critical medical condition includes extreme physical illness resulting from a drug or alcohol overdose.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 121 as amended is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and to the general file.
Assembly Bill 188, introduced by Assemblywoman Kasama and Senator Ornschall, etc., revises provisions governing investigational treatments. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 612, proposed by the Senate Committee on Health and Human Services.
Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
There are no objections, so ordered. Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt the amendment.
You've heard the motion. Senator Donate.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 612 to Assembly Bill 188 adds a preamble, revises requirements to a patient's informed consent, requires manufacturers providing individualized investigational treatment to establish a patient hotline, requires such manufacturers and physicians under certain circumstances to report certain information concerning these treatments, and establishes administrative penalties against manufacturers violating these provisions, and authorizes the boards to adopt regulations to ensure the safety and efficacy of such treatments.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 188 as amended is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and in the general file.
Assembly Bill 364, introduced by Assemblywoman Cohen, etc., revises provisions governing physician assistants. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 656, proposed by the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Spearman.
Mr. President, move that the Senate adopt amendment number 656 to Assembly Bill 364.
You've heard the motion. Senator Spearman.
Amendment 656 to Assembly Bill 364 does the following. Deletes all sections of the bill and adds new sections to increase the membership of the Board of Medical Examiners from 9 to 11 members, to add 1 new member of the board who is a physician assistant and 1 who is a respiratory therapist licensed in the state.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. 1 nay. Motion carries. AB 364, as amended, is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and in the general file.
Assembly Bill 371, introduced by Assemblywoman Cohen, etc., and Senator Orenshaw, makes various changes relating to parentage. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in the Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 607, proposed by the Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 607.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
I move to adopt Amendment 607 to Assembly Bill 371.
You've heard the motion. Senator Scheibel.
This amendment adds new language in Section 107 of the bill requiring that a gestational agreement must provide for the express written agreement between the gestational carrier and any legal spouse or domestic partner of the gestational carrier, acknowledging that the intended parent is the legal and physical custodian of any resulting child, adds clarifying language in Section 50 regarding the sharing of information by the State Registrar of Vital Statistics, provides that a Child Welfare Services agency may maintain an action to adjudicate parentage in certain circumstances, and specifies that the venue for an adjudication of parentage may take place in the county in this state in which a proceeding has been commenced to protect a child from abuse or neglect.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. AB 371 is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and in the general file.
Assembly Bill 373, introduced by Assemblywoman Gorlow, etc., revises provisions relating to deceptive trade practices. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 606, proposed by the Senate Committee on Judiciary.
Senator Scheibel.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of Amendment 606.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Scheibel.
I move to adopt Amendment 606 to Assembly Bill 373.
You've heard the motion. Senator Scheibel.
This amendment increases the maximum penalty for a deceptive trade practice aimed at a disabled person to $15,000, and if the deceptive trade practice is aimed at a minor or elderly person, to $25,000.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 373, as amended, is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and in the general file.
Assembly Bill 408, introduced by Assemblywoman Brown May, revises provisions relating to reckless driving. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate and Assembly, do enact as follows, Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
I have amendment number 655, proposed by the Senate Committee on Growth and Infrastructure.
Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we adopt Amendment 655 to Senate Bill 408.
You've heard the motion. Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. Amendment 655 to Senate Bill 408 requires that certain information regarding hardship tariff be included in the annual report submitted by the operator of a tow car to the Nevada Transportation Authority. It revises provisions governing the towing of a motor vehicle requested by a person other than the owner of the vehicle, provides that the operator of a tow car shall not charge any fee or cost for the storage of a motor vehicle until at least 24 hours after the motor vehicle arrives and is registered at the place of storage, requires the operator of a tow car to consider charging a hardship tariff instead of a normal rate, prohibits an operator from charging any fee or cost for the towing of a vehicle solely because the registration of the vehicle is expired, and provides that the towing of such a vehicle by an operator is a violation subject to certain penalties, requires the operator of a tow car to display certain information in his or her place of business relating to the sharing of a hardship tariff and a telephone number for the NTA where a person may report certain violations, and delete sections 2.2 through 2.8 and sections 3.3 through 3.7 of the bill.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 408, as amended, is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and the general file.
Mr. President,
Senator Harris.
Can we go to order of business 9, please?
Okay, we are now on order of business 9.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that we take Senate Bill 408 from its place on general file and place it on the Secretary's desk for the purpose of an amendment.
No objections, so ordered. Okay, we're back on order of business. Which bill, Senator Harris?
Actually, I said Senate Bill. I believe I meant Assembly Bill 408.
Okay, then that one's so ordered. All right, we're back on order of business 12.
Assembly Bill 437, introduced by the Assembly Committee on Commerce and Labor, limits the amount a provider of health care may charge for filling out certain forms associated with certain leaves of absence. The people of the state of Nevada, represented in Senate Assembly, do enact as follows. Section 1 and Section 1.
Are there any amendments?
There are none. Excuse me, there is one. Assembly Bill 553, proposed by the Senate Committee on Commerce and Labor.
Senator Spearman.
Thank you, and thank you for the acknowledgement, Mr. Secretary. Mr. President, I move to dispense with the reading of the amendment.
If there are no objections, so ordered. Senator Spearman.
Thank you, Mr. President. Move that the Senate adopt Amendment 553 to Assembly Bill 437.
You've heard the motion. Senator Spearman.
Amendment 553 to Assembly Bill 437 does the following. The amendment prohibits healthcare providers from charging patients they have treated within the last 3 years for completing Family and Medical Leave Act of 1993 certification forms required by employers. For patients not treated in the past 3 years, the provider is prohibited from charging more than $25 for completing such forms.
Are there any remarks from the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. AB 437 as amended is ordered reprinted, engrossed, and in the general file.
That concludes order of business 12 on the second agenda.
Order of business 16, remarks from the floor, introduction of guests. Senator Flores.
I just wanted to inform that Senate Government Affairs will meet immediately upon adjournment.
Senator Harris.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to unfortunately remind the chamber that today is 1 year since we lost another set of elementary school kids along with their 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas. One of the more heartbreaking school shootings, if that could even be a thing. I would just hope that as we all go about our business today, that we can keep those children, those teachers, and their families in our hearts and minds. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Dondero Loop.
Thank you, Mr. President. And Senate Finance will meet following Government Affairs, so TBD. Stay tuned. Maybe like 5:30 or 6, I don't know.
Senator Canizaro.
Thank you, Mr. President. With that, I move that the Senate stand in adjournment until the hour of 11 a.m. on Thursday, May 25th, 2023.
You've heard the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned.